Hello, my loves. You are about to listen to an episode that I recorded about a year and a half ago with one of my bestest friends in the world, Kimberley. Now, Kimberley is a trauma-informed manifestation coach. However, she's currently taking a break from her coaching business to focus on other matters in her life, but I didn't want to leave this episode out because it is full of juicy stuff, and I just took my goddamn time getting this podcast out and I didn't want to miss this. So we are going to dive into all things manifestation in this episode when it comes to attracting the love of your life. Kimberley is going to tell us her story and why manifestation just isn't working for us and what are the real secrets behind true manifestation. So I hope you're excited for this episode because it is just unbelievable. So let's get going. Welcome to the Relationship Rehab Podcast. I'm Sammy, a certified breakup and relationship coach, attachment specialist, former love addict, and spiritual junkie. This podcast is for you, the hopeless romantic who loves to love, and a safe space for us to explore and heal our attachment trauma, broken hearts, and love addictions. Together, we are on a mission to become the love of our own lives, so we can have successful, healthy, secure relationships with others. So if you're ready to create a life and love beyond your wildest desires, you're in the right place. Your journey towards becoming more secure in love and life starts now. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Relationship Rehab. And today I'm excited to be joined by my very dear friend, Kimberley. Kimberley is a trauma-informed manifestation coach, and she lives here in Thailand with me, and we've known each other for about over a year now, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this conversation. And Kim and I, we have these conversations and we always say that we should be recorded because they always just absolutely mind-blowing. So I'm just so happy that we have the opportunity to come together and have a conversation. And today we're going to be talking about manifesting love and what that looks like. And I think, you know, everybody is jumping on the bandwagon of manifestation these days, right? So I'm really excited to really dive into what that actually means and pick apart those types of surface level manifestation things that people are doing that are not working necessarily. And we're going to really reveal the secrets of what it actually means to manifest love. So before we get into that, I would love for you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Well, thank you for that lovely introduction. And I love that you asked about the trauma-informed piece, because for me, truly, that is the most important thing. And it's the missing piece that so many people don't really, as you say, don't really understand when it comes to manifestation. They're like, wow, what does healing and trauma have to do with manifestation? So we're going to dive deeper into this, but I'll just give you a brief overview of my story and how I came across this path and why I decided to become a trauma-informed coach, with the manifesting stuff as well. So I went on my own massive healing journey a couple of years ago. And prior to that, I had jumped onto the manifestation bandwagon. I read The Secret. Everyone talks about how The Secret changed their life. I read The Secret. I was like, no way, this is too good to be true. I tried to use some of the practices and principles of The Secret, and I'll say it wasn't working for me, but the thing you need to know is manifestation is always working. It's just not always working in your favor because you have a lot of stuff underneath that is maybe attracting the wrong thing. So it was working. It just wasn't working in my favor. And because of, you know, all the trauma that I had grown up with in my childhood, my brain was just wired differently. I was a very negative thinker. I was in a victim mindset. I wasn't even aware of all of this. And so I kind of closed the book and threw it away and never visited it again. And then I embarked accidentally on a massive healing journey a couple of years ago. And after that, I revisited manifestation again. And then I was like, whoa, it really works. Now I've cleared all of this stuff, the limiting beliefs and everything, and, you know, I've healed what needed to be healed. I mean, it's still a journey. Healing is a lifelong journey, but it's just, I feel so much more free now. And I'm able to attract things into my life a lot easier. And now I can say manifestation works in my favor. So along my healing journey and, you know, learning about all this manifestation stuff, I was just like, I need to share this with the world. Not enough of the world knows this. And so this just really became my calling, is helping people manifest their dream lives, but also just uncovering the toxic side of manifestation, the spiritual bypassing, and just a lot of people who feel maybe frustrated on their journey. It kind of gives you the feeling that things aren't working for you if you're trying all these techniques and it's just not working for you, that there's something wrong with you, or you're broken, or you just don't know how to manifest, or you're never going to be one of those people that can manifest their dream lives. And that's absolutely not true. It's just that not a lot of the deeper stuff is often spoken about, unfortunately. Everybody's kind of also just after a get rich quick thing when it comes to manifestation. You have to understand that manifestation is a holistic journey. It's not just something that you can do overnight. If you adopt it into your life as a journey and make it more of a lifestyle, then you'll start seeing how it can change your life.
Wow. Yeah, because I mean, in today's society, everybody is so fixated on doing, right? What is the new strategy that I need to try? What do I need to do more of in order to get what I want? And I know for me, that was very much my story. And of course, hard work comes into play with this as well. But when I first came into, like, I was the same as you, really. I stumbled across The Secret and was watching a few YouTube videos about manifestation. I was like, what is manifestation? It was very much like, just ask the universe and it will be granted to you. Easy peasy. So before we dive in deep into that, I just want to circle back into your story a little bit, because I know that you used to work in New York City. If you don't mind sharing a little bit about your personal manifestation journey and how you used manifestation techniques, which we're going to talk about in today's episode, to get your dream life living here in Thailand and eventually manifesting love for yourself as well. So if you would like to share a little bit about that, that would be great.
Of course. So while I was living in New York City, I wasn't practicing manifestation intentionally, but I did use techniques such as writing things down have always helped me. But now what people don't understand is, I could tell you, oh, I wrote down my goals and dreams and then it happened. But there's always so much underneath that happens, even though we are maybe unconsciously aware of it. We're not consciously aware of it. The main thing I want to bring up right now before we get into this conversation, because it's really important to mention this, is that we are also different with our journeys, and we're so different with where we start on our journeys and what we've experienced. So no two people obviously have the same journey, even a twin sister that you grew up with. So you could journal something and it happens for you tomorrow. So no two people's manifestation journeys are the same. And this is also where people get caught up, is that you've been through traumas and stuff in the beginning of your life. It's going to take a lot more work for you to manifest these amazing things into your life, because you might have a lot more limiting beliefs and sort of unhealthy coping mechanisms versus someone who grew up with a healthier relationship dynamic. Going back to my story in New York City, I unintentionally, but using manifestation without actually realizing I was using manifestation, I was just really miserable in my corporate job. I'm sure you've heard the story a million times before. And I eventually did pluck up the courage to quit my job and go traveling. I wanted to go backpacking through Europe. And this whole experience was just so much validation that the universe always has my back. And also that the universe rewards courage. Once you make that step, once you take that leap, everything just starts shifting and falling into place. The trouble is that because as humans, we just seek safety and certainty. Most of the time, people are just afraid to take that leap at all, because they can't figure out what the next steps are going to be. But if you can just gain that trust, you don't need to figure out the steps. And it was just so miraculous how everything fell into place. I got a friend to sublease my apartment from me during the time. I got extra clients that just landed on my lap that ended up allowing me to save a lot more money than what I had initially planned. So I didn't have to travel on as much of a shoestring budget as what I had budgeted for to start. And so, yeah, that's just an example of how once you take the leap, you move, the universe moves with you. And as you mentioned earlier, how, many people just think, oh, ask and it's given. It just comes to you. There is a lot to be said around the energetic alignment of that, but you have to make the moves. And so a lot of people are also put off by manifestation because they're like, you can't just ask for it and it comes to you. And so there's the lack of belief around that as well, where, so as I said, that's just about energetic alignment, but you have to take the actions to get there. I manifested out of my career, and, I always wanted to kind of do my own thing, start my own business, but same thing, limiting beliefs, society's lack mentality, everybody thinking that having a job is the most safe way to go. And of course, the wonderful pandemic, which we will not mention its name, showed us that no one is safe and nothing is certain, right? And so my travels found me being stuck in Thailand during the pandemic. And that is actually when I went on this massive healing journey. And I say by accident, but the reason it happened is because it was the first time I really slowed down and really started like seeing my life as a mirror. Living in New York City for 7 years, working at a corporate job, everything was go, 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 crazy, crazy, crazy. I had no time to reflect on myself and my life and what I kept calling into my life. And so that's really how it all started, was just taking that time to slow down and go inward and really reflect on my patterns and why I keep attracting these same situations that are not favorable. And then, of course, I think manifestation isn't working for me, but it is working for me. It's showing me what I need to heal when I'm attracting things that are not aligned.
Yeah. And we've kind of seen that during the pandemic, who shall not be named. Where there was like this big spiritual awakening of what it was called, right? Because people were actually forced to slow down. People were forced to sit with themselves and
couples as well.
Yes, yeah, for sure. With themselves, with their partners, with their family members, because we're so distracted in modern society. I feel like we have so much to do. We're so busy and we're constantly distracting ourselves that when we are then forced to sit with our emotions and sit with our lives, that's when things really start to get shook up.
You're like, oh.
Oh my God.
It's true. I mean, that's why a lot of people make themselves busy all the time, because they're afraid of what they might see if they were to sit alone with their thoughts.
Okay, so manifestation in the process, what I'm hearing is a requirement to really sit with yourself, right? And to really sift through those beliefs that you're holding on to and be prepared to face them.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing with manifestation that people don't really understand is, especially with all the stuff you see on TikTok and YouTube, and it's about all these silly little techniques, and I will call them silly because they're very surface level. Manifestation is an inner game. And a lot of people also don't realize that we actually manifest from our subconscious. So it's not a conscious process either. So yes, the journaling, the affirmations, all of this will support that process. But if you've got all this stuff inside, these woundings, these unhealed traumas, these limiting beliefs, all the writing in the world isn't going to help you to kind of heal those permanently.
Yeah. So these external doing actions are just a complement to the being work, to the inner work that you have to go through. In your opinion, then, when it comes to manifesting love, because this is what this episode is about, but it can be applied to anything, right? It can be applied to anything that you're trying to manifest. Why is it not working?
Well, I can give you, for my own example, I mean, I can explain this the best because it was my example and I went through all of this myself. I got super frustrated with my patterns. That was the first thing. And I was like, why do I keep attracting these same people? I deep down wanted a relationship, but truly I didn't feel worthy of a relationship because I also didn't even have the confidence to express to people that I wanted a relationship. I would just go on dates and I'd kind of be like, oh yeah, cool, I'm chill. I just go with the flow. That's not really what I wanted. I truly did want something committed, but I thought I was this like cool, chilled girl. That's what I wanted to be on the outside. But deep down, I had a lot of wounding that I needed to work through. So I kept receiving these same kind of toxic dating situations, men who disrespected me. It almost just became a textbook of how the situations would start. The guys would like love bomb. Everything would be amazing for the first week or so. And then all of a sudden they would just flip. And I was like, what did I do wrong? They would just go cold overnight. Funny enough, I had one last situation and I was just like, I just don't know what to do anymore. I was at a loss for words. I was at a loss for what to do. And I decided I'm just going to take a break from dating. And I think this is one of the biggest problems in today's society, is that when people are now getting constantly triggered because of, that dating apps have also made dating so much more tricky. And so they're getting constantly triggered, and we don't like who we are when we're in this triggered state of dating. So instead of working on why we get triggered and healing those triggers, we're avoiding them. And then people are blaming everything's dating shit and da-da-da. And yes, it can be challenging. Relationships have changed a lot over the years, but you shouldn't be so triggered dating that you absolutely hate your life and you feel like an absolute mess when you don't get a text back or whatever. So if you're getting overly triggered when it comes to dating, there's always things that you need to heal. Of course, as long as we have a nervous system, we're going to get triggered, but we shouldn't be in this kind of panic attack and mess, when we're dating. So I turned to Reddit. Because I just didn't know what to do. And I poured my heart out on this Reddit post. And I actually read it recently. And it even made me cry because I could just feel the sadness and desperation that I was feeling. I just didn't understand. I was like, I don't understand. I'm successful. I've traveled, or this or that. Like, I'm a good person. Like, why do I keep getting these situations? And honestly, that one Reddit post was like 10 years of therapy. People were so, so helpful. And over again, people mentioned the attachment theory. And learning about the attachment theory changed everything for me, because it wasn't just, I am the way I am and there's nothing I can do about it. It was like, wow, that's why I am the way I am. Okay, I can heal that. I can fix that. I can change. So that was kind of my first awakening when it came to my love life. And then shortly after that, is when I quit my job to travel.
I think awareness is just number one.
I think that's the biggest thing, is that realizing there's nothing wrong with you.
Yes.
These were just all safety mechanisms that you've built up to keep yourself safe from whatever happened in the past.
Yes.
And it's so comforting. It was so comforting to learn that.
Yes, because I was having these types of experiences as well, where I did manifest someone that kind of ticked every box on my list. But because I still was going through the healing work and I still wasn't quite there yet, I actually ended up subconsciously sabotaging what was being given to me, and it all comes back to self-worth. I didn't feel worthy of having this person, this relationship, this love. I felt so unlovable, so unworthy. So therefore I sabotaged it. I kept telling myself that they're going to leave eventually, that they're using me, that they're out to get something. So therefore I had these beliefs stuck in my subconscious mind, and I sabotaged because I was living out those beliefs in the conscious world. Is this what's happening then when people are trying to manifest and they have their dreams? It could be a relationship, it could be a business, whatever that is. And then they're trying to do all the things that should lead them up to achieving that. But somehow it's just not quite hitting the spot.
Absolutely. The beliefs we hold and what is going on in our inner world is essentially what we're going to attract. We're very powerful human beings, and we sometimes forget that. And have you ever heard the saying, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it?
Oh, yeah.
And I was backpacking in early 2020. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, I wish I could meet a guy who would like change his travels so that he could travel with me for a bit. I wish I was actually that special to someone. And I know this comes from a very, I want to be chosen energy, but this is where I was in that space. I'm not there now, but that's where I was in that space. This is what I wished for in my head. And lo and behold, I met this guy, and he was just like tall, dark, handsome, spoke 5 languages. He was a doctor. I was literally like, no, sure. I had such low self-worth that I couldn't believe that he actually was flirting with me and that maybe he just wants to be friends. Anyway, after hanging out with him for a bit, it was obvious he didn't just want to be friends. And we hung out, and I was plagued with thoughts the entire time of, why would this guy want to be with me? I couldn't even enjoy the moment. I couldn't stay present. I immediately started finding, I was very hypervigilant before. I started sensing danger of how he's going to reject me, how he's going to leave me, how he's going to do this, how he's going to lose interest. We're going to have a great night, and tomorrow he's just going to leave and he's not going to say goodbye. I was creating these scenarios in my head. What do you think happened? It all fell apart, exactly how I had created in my head. So this is what we do. And we don't realize that we are creating our reality with these thoughts. And people are like, well, how do you just create reality with your thoughts? It's not the thoughts that changes. It's your behaviors that happen because of the thoughts.
Yes.
So I probably probably started getting a bit needy and weird with him. Pretty much just predicted what's going to happen. I created it for myself. So that's the thing, is that we do have to be very cautious of our thoughts and how they actually impact our feelings and behaviors. And that's what, changes things in relationships. So even if you meet the most amazing, healthy human being that treats you like a queen, if you don't believe that you deserve to be treated like a queen, you're going to sabotage it at some point. And that's why it's so important to be doing the inner work before you go out seeking a relationship, because you might just get what you asked for and then you're just not ready for it. You don't know. You're seeking a healthy relationship. Do you have the capacity to show up healthy yourself in the relationship? That's the biggest thing. And at the end of the day, we are mirrors to what we get in our lives, So if you're asking for something, are you a match to that thing that you're asking?
Right.
And that's what I was talking about, how manifestation energetically is that we have to be a match to what it is that we're asking for.
Yeah, because if we truly and firmly hold that belief that we are worthy and we are good enough to have that healthy, loving relationship, then our behavior will then reflect that. And we won't be suffocating and drowning in these thoughts of not feeling worthy, not feeling good enough, therefore feeling anxious and feeling like they're going to leave at any point, and therefore we become more clingy and more needy. And that's the process, right? That's what's happening when we give our limiting beliefs the driver's seat, right?
We're giving our power away.
Yeah, absolutely. A part of basic principles of manifestation then is really changing those beliefs, what we call reprogramming those beliefs. So how do you advise people to go about that? Like, how do we start changing those deep-rooted subconscious beliefs that we all hold?
Whoa, this is a big one. I mean, the biggest thing is our subconscious, our nervous system. That's where these beliefs and these triggers and traumas are held. A lot of people, they think trauma is something we think about. It's not. It's actually something that's stored in our body. So it is really working with everything on a subconscious level. And so, as I said earlier, when people are getting super triggered by dating, you get these women who are like successful in every area of their life. But when it comes to dating, they just become a complete mess. And I mean, that was me. I was like,
me too.
Come on, Kim, come on. Yeah, exactly. And
therefore I would then avoid it because it didn't match up with how I showed up in other areas of my life. Like I was showing up for myself in my career, my business. I was showing up for myself with my friends, for my in all these. But then when it came to dating and relationships, I was like, who is this person? I don't recognize this person.
And so we kind of just ignore it or shove it under the carpet or blame the outside circumstances. And again, I'm not denying dating is challenging. It is, things have changed with the way we look for in relationships. We're all like a lot more self-aware, but then others aren't, and then that's super frustrating. But it is also so important to reflect on patterns when they're coming into our lives. And for example, with me, at first I grew up in South Africa and I had trouble dating there. And I was like, oh, South African men are shit though. Then I moved to New York and I'm like, oh, dating here sucks. Oh, New York guys are shit. Oh, dating in New York sucks. Then I started traveling the world and I went to multiple countries and I was still attracting the same type of person. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, I'm the common denominator. Yeah. Yes. What am I doing to attract these situations? And it came a lot down to self-worth and kind of just accepting whatever treatment from everyone. But also when you're not grounded in your self-worth, you don't express your needs. You don't have boundaries. There's so much that comes with it as well. So to go back to your question and the triggers and how to start healing that, really start working with your triggers. And, it sounds scary and yes, it's painful. It's not nice to deal with our triggers, but this is between the time that we're triggered and the time we have a chance to respond instead of react, because most of us get triggered and then we react. And that's when shit hits the fan, So we want to lean into our triggers, but it's also so important to understand how our nervous system works so that we can create that sense of safety for ourselves. Because there's no point in getting yourself triggered and then you end up in a panic attack because you don't know how to pull yourself out of that. So it's really just being able to heal your triggers in a safe environment, creating resourcing for yourself. So whatever that is, whether that's, cuddling your pet or going for a walk or going exploring nature, whatever you can do to ground yourself again. So it's working with your triggers and then having practices that help calm your nervous system and regulate your nervous system.
I love that.
And I would say that's really the basis of it, because we experience life through our nervous system, through our subconscious. Everything is automatic. All this conscious work that we're doing in our minds, it's most of the time quite fruitless. Like therapy can be helpful, it can, but this is why you have people who are going to therapy for 10 years without having much progress. They have a reasonable amount, but they're still not feeling that deep healing. And especially when it comes to relationships, you know, people will be like, I've been going to therapy for 10 years, you know, I'm good, like everything's great. And then they get into a relationship and all of a sudden everything gets triggered again.
Yeah.
That's because they haven't done the deep healing that needs to be done in the body.
I love everything that you just said. That's just amazing advice to really work with the triggers and also those type of emotional regulation.
Self-soothing is huge. Exactly. Yeah.
And self-soothing for me was huge in my journey, because I really struggled with love anxiety, relationship anxiety. I wasn't an anxious person outside of relationships. I always say business and relationships are the two biggest catalysts for personal growth. And when you get triggered, my main emotion is anxiety. And so self-soothing for me was massive in my own healing journey. But I want to take you back a little bit with what you said about these types of stories that people are having about men or even women or relationships in general. How South African men are shit, New York men are shit, and it's like, men are shit. There's no good men out there. How is that holding people back? Because I know in my experience, and when I talk to people, they kind of live out that story. They're like, there's no good men out there, so why even bother? Right. And then they don't see the good men. They're like, there are none. So can you explain a little bit about how that's holding people back?
Another loaded one there. And I can share a little bit about my story, because that was exactly me until basically a year ago. I had those beliefs as well. So, I mean, one of the biggest things is that how we define something is how we approach it, right? So how we define relationships, how we see relationships, men, everything else, that's how we're going to approach it. So as you said, you might be feeling that way and then you're like, oh, well, all men are shit anyway, so I'm not going to be bothered. That being said, our past experiences are shaping our future as well. We're allowing them to. I saw somebody comment the other day, there was this dating coach and someone was talking about it was an article talking about her success, and she sells this course on how men can meet women and have long-term relationships. And there were so many comments there of men who would say, what's the point of this? Because what you do is you meet a girl, you give her everything, and then she just throws it in your face and she cheats on you. Okay. So there were numerous comments that were along the lines of that. And this is exactly what's happened in that case, is these people have experienced that. They perhaps experienced it in their first relationship. They lost the trust, all the relationships going forward, and then they started attracting that because that was their belief around the relationships.
Right.
Same thing, you start making up the stories and then you start just attracting people like that.
That's their narrative that they keep replaying.
Exactly.
And I think this is called transference as well, right? When they can't let go of a past experience. And the way that the brain works is it store that memory. And it's like, we're not going to go there again because that caused us pain. So therefore we're going to remember that. So when we may get into another relationship again and we're triggered by something small, like them going on the mobile phone, whereas in the past relationship, maybe your ex-partner cheated on you and it was a lot to do with them being on the phone. And then that's that transference of memory, of beliefs, of the narrative that they're playing out.
Exactly. And the thing to note as well is that our subconscious attracts or seeks familiarity and certainty. And our subconscious job is to keep us alive, not necessarily happy. So it's going to search the familiar and the certainty, even if those situations make us unhappy. And I think this is where people get mind blown, because they're like, why would I be attracting someone who cheats on me all the time? Very often people will get triggered because they're like, I'm not attracting that. But subconsciously, often you are. And it's not even necessarily you. It could be because of what you grew up with. And so that's imprinted in your subconscious.
I think that's important to really reiterate that message, right? It's not your fault.
Exactly.
That you're replaying these patterns. I think people are very quick to go into the defensive mode, into the victim mindset, like, oh, you're blaming me for everything. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to really become aware of these patterns and deal with them as well.
And it's, you know, it's a tough job to be the cycle breaker in a family. It is, but it's also such a privilege because we're breaking cycles here. I mean, I know that the low self-worth thing carried on, not even from my mom, my grandmother, and even further back than that. People talk about healing all of this stuff, and often trauma healing is this kind of taboo subject that you don't want to touch, you don't want to go near. But when you start learning that it's about healing healing in your body, healing your triggers, creating practices for yourself that make you feel whole and alive again, and being able to be present, the healing journey can actually be a very beautiful one. It's not always easy. I'm not going to sell it as unicorns and rainbows. It's not at all.
No.
But each layer that you heal and that you uncover, and you come home closer to your true self before all this bullshit conditioning and protective mechanisms kind of spoiled us. It rotted us in a way, you know.
Yeah.
And when you start uncovering that, it can be a very beautiful journey. People tend to shy away from it because they're afraid of what they might uncover.
Yeah, they're afraid to go into the darkness, but what we don't realize is there's so much light to be had in the darkness as well. And you do come out of it. And we hear a lot about like the butterfly analogy, right? Where the butterfly is in its cocoon and then it comes out and it's so beautiful. But that's how I see it sometimes, you know, you have to go into that cocoon, you have to go into the dark in order to come out into this new expression of yourself. And while we're on the topics of beliefs as well, because we're talking about how to manifest love, right? So I think a lot of the people that are listening to this episode, and when I was doing a lot of work around like, how do I manifest this beautiful relationship that I want to have in my life, I became fixated on that. I became obsessed with manifesting this person, this relationship, and I was trying too hard. I believe trying to get this dream of mine to come to fruition. What is the danger in that when people are really fixated on manifesting love in a relationship?
I think the biggest thing there is that exactly that they get fixated on a certain ideal of what they think romantic love is, and you know, a healthy relationship, the perfect man, the soulmate. God, can we please throw that term away?
Soulmate, twin flame,
yeah,
the one.
yeah. So people just become too fixated on that, and at the end of the day, a relationship and a partner should complement you. Another one we can throw away is my better half. This is not what relationships are meant to be. My other half, my better half, all of that stuff. I truly believe that if you can find wholeness and worthiness within yourself, that you're going to start attracting the people that are meant to be in your life. So that's that's what you should be focusing on, is not focusing on manifesting a relationship. Focus on creating this wholeness and worthiness within yourself, and start really just getting truthful with yourself and have an honest conversation with yourself. You might have certain qualities that you're looking for in a partner. What qualities do you bring to the table? So this is a thing as well. You know, we can be very demanding with what we want, and then we get this kind of needy, bratty energy, like, this is what I want. Why aren't I getting it? Why isn't, you know, but it's like, how are you bringing things to the table to also be an energetic match to this amazing, beautiful, healthy relationship? Because, you know, if you're going to call this amazing man into your life, but then you're going to get angry with him every time he looks at his phone and there's a girl that just randomly popped up on his Instagram because he was scrolling, that's not healthy. I mean, I know that is a big thing for some people, and I personally don't think it's healthy to be like that. You know, we're human. We can look at other people. Like, it's natural for us to be attracted to other people. You just have to have that trust between each other.
Yes, and the self-worth within yourself.
Exactly. That you're not comparing yourself to other people.
And I think that was a major element of my codependent relationship that I was in, that I was always looking at my partner to fulfill what I needed. So he was my source of happiness. He was my everything. When we don't have that self-worth within ourselves and we're not able to meet our own needs, we're constantly dependent on that other person as well to be able to do that for us.
And I think it was you and I that had this conversation a little while ago with some of the love songs that were created in the 90s. It's like, no wonder we grew up the way we did. Like, I have nothing if I don't have you. You're my everything. I'd rather die than not have you. And it's like, no.
Wow. And we're singing along to it as like 6, 7 years old.
Absolutely loving it. Exactly. So yeah, it's just really creating that sense of wholeness and worthiness within yourself. And then you start, again, going back to the thing of that we are mirrors and we are attracting what is going on inside of us. So if you keep attracting men that are disrespecting you, how are you disrespecting yourself?
Right. Yes. And it's coming back to that principle of becoming the one, right? We hear this term being thrown around as well, and that is basically what it is. It's embodying those qualities and those values that you're actively seeking for in someone else, but giving that to yourself, being that for yourself. We're so focused on that we don't have it, the lack mentality, right? That is, we don't have it, and that means that we are not good enough. We're so lonely, like nobody wants us. And when we're fixated on the lack, where we're living out that mentality, where we're living out that story. Whereas if we focus on what we do have, the abundant mindset, and how we are able to nourish ourselves and fill our lives up for ourselves, then it just completely changes how you go about life.
100%.
Right. And I think this is what was very prevalent in my journey when I decided to move to Thailand, coming out of that 8-year codependent relationship and having to stand on my own 2 feet and not knowing what that looked like. I was with this boy since I was 15 years old, and having to build this life for myself. And what did that look like? You know, and that was a 5-year journey, but one that I am so grateful to have gone on, because it really brought me back home to myself. In terms of how we go about manifesting a relationship, right? So we've covered really sitting with the triggers and the beliefs that we're holding and the stories that we're holding and the mentality that we have around lack and abundant mindset. Is there anything else that we need to adopt in order to really get this right?
So I'll take you through the steps of my journey so that you know that this is something I've experienced myself. I didn't just read a manifestation book and here we go. And it kind of reiterates what we spoke about as well. Pretty much until 2021, I had those beliefs about relationships. I didn't believe healthy relationships existed. If I saw someone in a healthy relationship, in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, but probably one of them's cheating, or, you know, and then what would happen? Like I would find out that one of them was actually cheating, or there was some nonsense going on in their relationship, because my subconscious was always validating information that I was looking for. And so I was doing my master NLP practitioner studies in December of 2021. And I just decided, okay, I'm ready to get rid of all of these beliefs now. I know that they exist. Some of them I actually thought they were facts. That's how deeply ingrained they were. And throughout the certification, I was kind of used as the guinea pig to dismantle these beliefs. And I finished that certification. It was about a week, feeling like a different person, feeling lighter, feeling like I had shedded so much. I walked into 2022 and I was like, relationships are abundant, men are abundant, there's amazing abundance out there. And in February, then I met, actually before that, I did have an amazing holiday fling with a guy that treated me like a queen and took me to a 5-star resort for my birthday. And I'd known him for a week. Like this shit never happened to me before. And I was just like, holy shit, this works. So prior to that, I had actually written my list. Okay, when I want to manifest stuff, I like to write a list. Now, if you go into a YouTube video, they'll tell you they wrote the list and things manifested. But there, as I said, there's always underlying stuff. So yes, I wrote my list. This guy ticked every box on my list, the holiday fling, except that he didn't have a nomadic lifestyle. And that's what I wanted, but it wasn't on my list. So I added it onto my list. And lo and behold, a month later, I met the one that had the nomadic lifestyle and everything else. That being said, you can have your list, but also have the flexibility that trusting that the universe is going to send you what you need. And the one thing I didn't have on my list that this guy provides me more than anyone I've ever met in my life is that sense of safety. So I healed a lot outside of this relationship. But of course, once you get into a relationship, these triggers still come. But now I have the tools to deal with them. And once you are in that safe relationship, you can heal even further without even making the effort. It's almost like their secure attachment and safe nervous system heals yours. I've just experienced this through this whole time. It's now been, so I met him in February and we're still together. And I was single for over 10 years after that, before that, single for over 10 years, believing that men are shit, believing that relationships are shit. As soon as I did the inner work, I became an energetic match for a healthy relationship. My prayers were answered.
Amazing.
Yeah. So this is just a testament to the inner work. It really is just all about the inner work.
Right,
and once you do get those inner foundations right, your reality starts to shift in your favor. But you have to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. And I want to touch upon something you've just said, and that is the universe is going to send you what you need. And I was being sent lessons that I needed to learn. God was sending me these people that I needed to have in my life in order to learn a certain lesson. And I know for me, I was like, this is not working. I'm trying to manifest this dream man, this dream relationship, yet this is what I get. But what I didn't know then that I do know now is that I needed to go through those experiences because that was what was preparing me for what was coming. And so I just wanted to touch upon that because there might be some people listening right now that is doing the work, you know, they're just scratching the surface, shall we say, and they're going through the motions. It's not a quick process, right? But I think we're just living in a very instant gratification society where we expect instant results. And sometimes we will attract a certain partner that we think, like you said, fits all our boxes, but then it's come for a different reason. And to allow that to happen, you know, and don't get disheartened if you feel like you're taking a step backwards. Actually, you're taking a leap forward.
Yes. And that's the thing, is like, don't ever think that manifestation isn't working. It's always working. When you're attracting things that are not in your favor, that just means it's showing you what needs to be healed still, or what you need to reprogram. And I truly believe that the universe will keep sending you the same person in different bodies until you learn the lesson.
Oh, yes.
And it's a frustrating journey. It really can be. And this is honestly why I suggest working with somebody, because you really don't see your own blind spots. And even sometimes patterns can be so obvious to someone else, but not to yourself.
Right.
And so it can be so helpful to have that person that's like, but didn't this happen here and here? And then why don't we join the dots? And, you know, the biggest thing is also just to go back to your childhood, because your patterns that you're recreating in your adulthood are almost always related to your childhood. Those dynamics are replaying in your adult life. That's usually a huge aha moment that people have.
Absolutely. And really leaning into trust as well, right? And having faith and being able to let go of the outcome. I think
that's huge as well. Yes.
For me is something that I still struggle with from time to time, is letting go of that outcome and not having that control, because we have been brought up to having control is a good thing, and being able to be in control, but then just really releasing and letting go and having that trust and faith is very important principle as well, right?
I always like to say it's this or better when I'm manifesting anything, whether it's a pair of shoes, whether it's a holiday, because it always is. And as long as you have that kind of mindset of it's this or better, or everything is always working out in my favor, somehow it just does. And it takes time to get to that as well. Like, this isn't a linear process. It's all over the place, but it is really just gaining that trust and knowing that our desire for the control is also from trauma, because that's what makes us feel safe.
Absolutely.
So that's we keep going back to like the deeper healing, because that's really where it's all at. All these outer little things are all going to be dissolved when you do the deep healing.
The theme really of what it takes in order to get what you want in life. Thank you so much for joining me on the Relationship Rehab podcast. I hope that this episode has supported you in healing, growing, and evolving out of insecure attachment and unhealthy relationship patterns and into safe, authentic love with yourself and others. If you enjoyed the episode, it would mean the absolute world to me if you would just take a second to rate and review this podcast. Every rating and review from you guys counts, as it really helps this podcast to grow so it can reach more people who need to hear this content. And don't forget to connect with me on social media. Take a screenshot of this podcast episode, share it on your IG stories, and tag me at the.relationship.rehab with your biggest takeaway from the episode. I really do love reading them. See you back here next week for another episode on the Relationship Rehab podcast.